Witches like to drink our tea and mix our herbs intentionally. Light a candle, say a spell, and consult our tarot. Soon manifestation never spells we cast may come. Soon.
Hi guys. So I've been having some conversations with people on live streams and whatever, and in private messenger groups and a couple other witches. And I wanted to make this video, but I've kind of been holding off because I figure I, couldn't start some drama that way if I say what I want to say, and I want to be very careful on the words that I use. But then again, I figure it doesn't matter what I say or how I say it. If someone's guilty of it, then it's gonna tick them off, and they're gonna play the perpetual victim or start stuff or make response videos or whatever. And so it doesn't matter what I say or how I say it, it's not. So, but this is just kind of like a little rant, but it's also more for the newer witches. So this is just like this, sort of this epiphany that I've had. And, with talking with other people, I'm just like, heck with it, I'm just going to do it. But I have been noticing, and I've heard other witches complain, and I'm just going to say what I've got to say about this. So I've been just basically kind of ticked off about the fact that as witches, we work with the dead, the majority of us, spirits, spirit guides, ancestors, the dead, because you can have guides that were formerly on this earth. You can have guides that are ancestors, this type of thing. But I've noticed, and it's not so much in the witchy community, because we as witches, we treat the dead or with reverence. We already know that they're there. We don't need proof. But I see a lot of videos where people are being very disrespectful to the dead. I don't see people, they want to communicate with the dead, but they don't leave offerings to the spirits. They want something for nothing. Or they just expect spirits to do as, they treat spirits like you would a house pet, sit when I say sit, lay down when I say lay down. Or they'll ask them to do the same task like 6, 7, 8 times when they fail to understand the fact that when spirit does something, it uses up energy. And when you have them do it, close a door like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, that's depleting the spirit of its energy. And then you're upset when you depleted the spirit of all of its energy, and it needs to recharge or whatever, and then you don't get the results that you want later on. But like I said, I don't see people, and I guess it's more so in the paranormal community than anything. I don't see offerings being left to spirits, and I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm just seeing a lot of it. Like I said, I don't see offerings being made to spirits or any type of respect shown to them, like asking them for assistance or help, asking them to do the same repetitive tasks repeatedly. I see a lot of people using a lot of dead relatives as means of drama, doing communications and not basically talking over the spirits and not giving them a chance to speak. A lot of basically using spirits for payment for your own personal use, and not thanking the spirits properly, not leaving them anything at all. No, no coins, no offerings at grave sites or wherever you believe that spirits are. When you're basically expecting something for nothing. They don't pay spirits the proper respect. And I'm just going to say that, and the other thing is that those of us that work with spirits, we want to call us witches, light workers, or whatever, we seem to get a bad rap for a lot of the sort of the negative energies that exist. Oh, a witch was conjuring here, so that's why there's negative spirits here, or a witch was doing this, and that's why there's demons here. My personal belief is that a demon, a lot of times spirits will just tell you that they're demons just to get you to shut up and leave them alone. They're just more like people that are just in a negative energy, or they're just telling you that just to shut you up and freak you out so you'll leave them alone because they don't want to be bothered. But I was telling someone tonight that usually if spirits are still on this plane, it's either A, they died under circumstances that were pretty violent and horrific and they're stuck. They don't want to cross over because they either have consequences they have to face on the other side, or they have unfinished business, or they are confused. They have passed on and they're confused, or they have unfinished business. Or like if they were murdered and they know who the murderer was, that type of thing, or just, things that they didn't get finished when they were on this plane. And, we need to keep in mind that these were people, and not all of them are basically spirits and in a very happy place. And when we're trying to, if you, number one, you shouldn't be trying to work with spirits as a witch unless you have, some pretty good training. And we do things like, I've seen people do things like take Ouija boards and burn them. That's not a very good way. You're just releasing negativity. If you're working with the Ouija board, you need to have protections up. You need to cleanse your board regularly and keep your board closed, put locks on. But when you burn a board, you're just letting loose all that negativity. Basically like the vessels, Divic boxes and things like that. Those are to keep negative spirits from being released, and then you release them. If you're going to feel as though you need to get rid of a Ouija board, do it responsibly, and the best and most responsible way to get rid of a Ouija board is to basically bury it, preferably with protection herbs. But burning an herb, especially if it's a bad board and you're doing it just for show, and you have young practitioners and people like that are doing stuff like this, and you're not showing a disclaimer, that's not very responsible. You can get spiritual attachments, not necessarily possession, but spiritual attachments. But we as witches, we know about servitors, we know about egregores, and these are spirits that we can create ourselves. And usually with these types of energies, if they're not given energy, etc., they just die. But I'm just really getting sick and tired of what we do as being some type of thing to get people's interest and get their attention, because not all witches work with spirits, and just because a witch is doing something concerning spirits doesn't mean that a witch is casting spells, so this is why the house is haunted. And there's not a lot of occult knowledge. Typically, if someone smells sulfur, oh no, there's demons here. There's been someone working with demons. In a lot of cultures and within a lot of practices, people will use sulfur to cleanse homes, etc., of negative spirits. There's more than one use for sulfur. There's more than one use for rice. And they just say, oh, this is just like, if you don't know crap about witchcraft or being a practitioner, then shut up. Please, do us all a favor. Um, but there's more with herbs, etc. There's always more than one use depending on a culture. Rice, for example, is used as a method of protection from negative spirits like boo hags and haints. For counting, if you leave rice out, then they will be counting the rice grains. That's a form of protection. And everything that you see with a cult, there's always more than one use, but they always focus on the negative use for something. And there's just like a lot of stereotypes that you younger witches are going to come across. And you need to learn that if you want to communicate with the dead or work with the dead, that one thing that you have to do is you have to do protections, whatever protections that you choose. But you have to treat these people, and they were people at one time, with reverence and respect. And if you do not do that, the outcome for you is not going to be very good. Your ancestors are ones that are not going to be very happy with you. As well as, because it's not always your spirit guides aren't always people that lived on this plane at one time. I'm going to agree with that. But this whole thing of putting these spirits up for show and expecting them to sit when you tell them to sit and shut a door 8 times, it's really getting ridiculous. And a lot of I've spoken to several witches who are sick and tired of what we do in our craft. There's witches that do some pretty dark stuff. I'm not going to say that there aren't, but we're tired of this whole pigeonholing thing. And these people with no knowledge of the craft, you look up one thing in Google and no occult knowledge whatsoever. And I'm tired of listening to it. I'm tired of witches being put in this position, and I'm tired of people not showing the dead proper respect, bringing up situations with someone else's dead relatives, for example, or putting crap with obituaries, just the way that the dead are totally disrespected. And that's just something that just really needs to get corrected, and it just needs to stop. And there is some other things that I do want to go ahead and touch on real quick. I see a lot of use of sage. And if you do come in contact, people think that sage is a means of protection, and it's not. More often than not, sage is used to basically clear away negative energies. And I see a lot of overuse, and I don't know what types of sage are being used, or I don't know what types of sage that people are using, but certain types of sage are basically, it's protected, so you need to be doing more research into different types of sage. And this overuse of white sage, especially if you are not Native American, that's basically considered cultural appropriation. And sage is very sacred to Native American people, and they're really trying to stop the use of certain types of sage in religious practices that are not Native American, especially if you are not Native American. You're being very disrespectful to the native and indigenous cultures that use it, because I know not all cultures use it. Granted, the Egyptians use sage for different things. But there are other herbs and things that you could use um, that could do just as well, if not better. And if it's more of a high level entity, sage is going to do nothing but make them laugh or take them off. Like shooting some with some dogs. What was that movie, Friday, where they were talking about the pepper spray, and the guy said pepper spray is like banaka to some of these dogs. So basically, sage is the same purpose. You're not even scratching the surface with a more, I'm going to say, negative entity, because uh, not all negative entities are demons. Um, but you need to be doing more research with herbs, especially if you're wanting to communicate, work with the dead, as far as how to clear um, a negative entity out or away from you. Um, Dragon's blood would be a really good example, because not only does it remove a negative entity, it's also used for protection. Cinnamon is a more protective herb from negative energies, and it's not a, you can go to the Dollar Tree and get cinnamon or cloves. These are things that, or even salt for that matter. Um, Start, talk to other witches, other practitioners. But when you're this overuse of sage, it's very disrespectful to the indigenous and the Native Americans, and find a different type of sage, or find other herbs to use for protection. Um, do more research, because indigenous people are just really tired, especially if you're not Native American. Some people will say, some tribes or natives will say, I'm going to just say indigenous. If you're not, you know, if you're not of a certain percentage, you're not Native American. Some say, well, it just would depend on the person. Um, some frankincense and myrrh with some of the higher level entities that are of the negative persuasion. Um, you're empowering them. Just because it was used in the Bible doesn't mean that it's not going to have the opposite effect for a more negative entity. So, do more research as far as to like different herbs and things that you can use for your protection, um, because a more higher level entity, it's going to need a little bit more oomph to it. Um, so this whole thing of, well, I got scratched by a spirit, and it just blows some sage smoke at it. It doesn't work that way. I really feel like some people really need to be doing more research in their occult knowledge. Um, that's just, even as a practitioner, if I go and I collect graveyard dirt, I'm going to leave an offering. And I do use a lot of graveyard dirt um, in my practice. But like things that are of the more negative persuasion, I don't. If I can't get the dirt, I'll use the grass, and I keep it in a situation where it's in plastic, so I don't have to worry about that negative getting getting out. And in some situations, even hot foot powder can be used as a means of getting rid of negative energies. You can even, if you needed protection, even crushed eggshells would do. But if you're going to be doing this type of working, you need to do more research as far as to other, all means of protection. And different cultures have their own um, means of cleansing and such. But that's just all I had to say. If you aren't going to treat the dead with reverence and respect, and if you have a spirit that is occupying a place, and they're doing stuff. It's because they don't want people in their space. They want to be left to themselves, and you're getting into their space. You wouldn't like if somebody just walked into your house and like started barking orders at you and expected you to do. Well, granted, we have government officials. That's a whole bad joke, but and the other thing that I just find really troublesome is people that want to do these spirit box sessions with celebrities that have recently passed away. I mean, one celebrity in particular wasn't even dead a week, and people were putting up spirit boxes concerning her. When you are, for one thing, when someone transitions, it takes them a heck of a lot longer than a week to adjust and rest and get used to the fact that they're not on this plane anymore. They're on the next plane. Not to mention the fact that a really smart person once said, death is not an ending, it's a reunion. And you're interfering with that reunion, with them being reunited with loved ones that are there waiting for them. So all these spirit box things you're coming up with people that haven't even been dead a week, don't put much stock in that, and you're being totally disrespectful to that person that has passed. Leave them alone. Like, give them time to acclimate and to commune with the loved ones that are there waiting. You don't even show them just because someone's a celebrity. You don't even show them. You can't even give them a week. Come on now. To get themselves back together, to get themselves adjusted. People are not respecting the dead and doing all this stuff because it's going to make them money or make them famous. So, start, just please, I'm asking, start treating these spirits with more respect. If you're going somewhere, drop them a cigarette, or if you don't want to get in trouble with littering, take the tobacco out of the cigarette and just sprinkle that natural tobacco on the ground, or some sugar, or leave them an apple, something like that. I'm really fed up with people not being respectful to the dead and dragging dead loved ones through the mud, and just all of this, and lack of education. I feel like certain communities need to be kind of basically like inviting more practitioners and getting their 2 cents on things, and stop with this whole stereotype stuff about, a witch has been doing this, so this is why this is here, and it's not always the case. And a lot of these people want to go and work with the dead, and they don't even want to put up protections. And that to me is just absolutely ridiculous. And then you're doing this stuff for these young kids to see, and not putting up disclaimers, not saying, hey kids, don't do this. And then you're saying these young kids are watching this stuff, and they're going out and they're doing stupid stuff, and they're paying the repercussions for it. You guys got to take some responsibility for what you do. But like I said, I had it all planned out, but I figure I'm just going to end up getting the shaft on this either way. But, it's just with the dilemma that we've had the last 3 years. We have a lot of people that have had to pass unexpectedly, or, just have not yet coped with the fact that they're gone, and they're banking on, just give them time, but just all of this, just not respecting them and not respecting their space, and not leaving them the proper offerings, you wanting something for nothing. But if you're wanting to be new, to the craft, to the practice, um, you really need to be. Um, Death is not always pretty, and you need to be prepared to look at the ugly side of death, because it's not this always this. You're not always going to come across the beauty of death. And there's a lot of really good practitioners that are that do spirit seeking is, I think, a very good term, who communicate and things with spirits in a very respectful way. And I think if you like the Lady Grave Dancer, for example, she's one. She does a lot of really good spirit talk videos and ways to do things correctly and respectfully. Um, but it's not something like you can be a witch for a week and then go get you a Ouija board. It doesn't quite work that way. There's scrying. There's scrying with black mirrors. There's all types of safer ways. And these things like Ouija boards, for example, um, before there were Ouija boards with Parker Brothers, whatever, people used pendulum boards. There were all other forms of communicating with the dead. Um, Even a spirit box can open a portal. So you really need to have your protections up. And spirits do not, you have to be in the spirit, working with spirits for some time, because it's just like a personal lie to you right to your face, so will a spirit. So you need to use discernment in your communications and understanding that not all, somebody's going to say, "Oh, I'm, I'm, I'm Sally, and I'm 4 years old." Sally could be 32 and a real B word. Um, so you really need to start using intuition and discernment when you are communicating with them, and they will appear to you as children. And a lower, more negative spirit will use the form of a child in order to get you, because you're not going to see a 4-year-old. It's all that intimidating. So if you this communication with spirits, you need to have some experience under your belt. You need to do your research. You need to speak to elder practitioners, and you need to be starting to show more reverence and respect to the dead. And if you do that, you're going to have more positive results. And one thing you have to do is you have to let go of fear, and you have to let go of ego, and most certainly the stereotyping. You can't be doing that. Just because you smell sulfur, someone could have been trying to cleanse their home rather than a demon invading it. And some places will have hospitals, jails, etc., with more negative, energetic people. You're going to tend to have more negative energies, and then you get these nitwits who want to go and sort of go to these places and do rituals and just basically try to use that negative energy to charge themselves. That creates a whole nother thing. I think that's kind of what, and a lot of these so-called practitioners don't know what they're doing. They see a couple movies about devils, fake movies, and these movies don't even have accurate information half the time, or they read a couple books and they think, okay, I can go to Waverly and do some kind of negative ritual, and I'm just using Waverly as an example. And you do have a lot of these idiots that go to places where murders, etc., happened and try to bank on that negative energy, and that's not showing the dead respect either. But I had a whole thing written out, but I thought, well, I better not do it that way, so I'm just going off the cusp here. But I'm really interested to see. I've already, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't want them getting any flack or whatever, but I've already heard what some other witches have said, because I've watched their videos where they're tired of us getting constantly, if a practitioner occupied a house and it's haunted, though it's the witch's fault or the witches are doing this. So I've already heard from a few people, but I know I have a lot of practitioners on my channel, and I would really be interested in hearing their 2 cents. I've already asked a couple people, so I hope they'll join in on me with this, and I'd really love to be interested to hear what other practitioners have to say. So, peace, love, and light, guys. Thanks a lot for listening, and please like, comment, and subscribe.